evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of Season 63 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. After a couple of weeks off, drivers are ready to get back at it and kick things off at the Talladega Super Speedway. Slightly different Talladega. Yep, visually it looks exactly the same, but during the course of this off-season, little bit of I&I testing, little tinkering going on as admin's trying to make the racing even more exciting here, more double wide, more three wide action for us, so we'll have to wait and see what happens here in tonight's season opener. I'm Seth Cole, soon to be joined by Michael Norman. Full field here tonight. They even had to send a few drivers home as everybody wants that first checkered flag of the new season, and we always talk about this too. First race of the season, of course, there's a winning you're in system, and everybody treats this as a must-win race. Why did they do that? Well, you've got the rest of the regular season races, if you wreck out trying to win, to be able to gain back the points that you lost. Everybody's at a clean slate, so if you get that one victory in race number one, not saying you can put your feet up, but it takes an awful lot of pressure off of you in trying to advance your way into the playoffs. So we will see a lot of aggressive racing, I'm sure, here this evening, maybe more so than we'll see the rest of the entire regular season. It will be interesting to see who's going to come out on top and maybe get that automatic golden ticket into the playoffs this early on in the season. Of course, as well, it's Talladega Super Speedway. We know we've got Burt Screwdriver's Raceway, the alternate track every other week, but this is the track that everybody's the most familiar with. Back in the day, this was the track that they raced at every single week. There was no alternative, and so with that being said, a lot of drivers are going to be in their comfort zone to maybe make a lot more aggressive moves than we would normally see if we were running at a track like Burt Screwdriver's Raceway. Random qualifying draw as usual, and Jeffrey Elliott claiming the pole position for this one. He was one of, I believe, a total of 12 drivers that had to qualify their way into the field on time. 5 drivers had to be sent home. 7 drivers made the field. I think Michael's finally entered into the booth.
I made it, and I out-qualified you.
You out-qualified yourself. There was a whole kerfuffle that went on with when they had to set server back with knockout qualifying. So there's 2 Michael Normans in the field. That's kind of weird. That's kind of odd. Who would win between you and yourself? Who do you think between you and yourself would end up winning a race?
Me, myself, and I.
You know what? That's 3 people. That's not 2 people. So you have an extra driver in there somewhere, and we have to look into that. There's the command to fire him up. Your starting lineup for tonight, again, based off of random qualifying draw. It's going to be Jeffrey Elliott on pole alongside of Jessica Shelton. Row 2, got to find Ron Hagelin, and he'll share that row with Greg Lovell. Row 3, Keith Bynum and the defending champion of the series, Chuck McClure. Going to have a nice qualifying spot there as he'll look to lock himself into another playoff position here in back-to-back seasons. Row 4, Bernie Mobbs alongside of Jason Scheck. Jason in a new number this season in the 022. Denny Carroll and Grant Wesley going to complete the top 10. Ken Roberts and Wiley Coate, they're back in row 6. Row 7, Chris Elliott alongside of Bob Seminara. In row 8 will be Bobby Farrell and Kelly Causey. Dante Ricky, Brian Schilling will be row 9, and completing the top 20 will be Terry Bombard and Glenn Harris. Row 11 is where we find Bob Dixon and Joe DeSpirito. Row 12, Mark Paglia and Billy Elliser. Row 13, Donnie Garrett alongside of Josh Metallic. Row 14, Chris Emery and John Godfrey. And then completing the top 30 will be Randy Waugh and Ulysses Sandoval.
You're not giving me my pauses.
I'm not giving you your pause. It's a new season, new me. In row, you made me lose track. 16, Rodney Sullins alongside of Jim Gloud. In row 17, Cy Jones and Jeremy Jeffries. Tim Knopfsker, Greg Palmer back in row 18. Row 19, Jeff Crivello and Robert Breedlove. And the final row will be Mike Mangialardi and Brian Rawson. 40 cars to take the green flag tonight. 5 drivers did not make the show. They were Doug Woolley, Jerm Lewis, Emmanuel Hartnett, Javier Negron, and former champion, actually 2 former champions, Doug Woolley, a former champion, and Richard Martin, a former champion that did not make the cut in tonight's season opener. 66 laps of racing here tonight at Talladega Superspeedway. Who's going to get that first checkered flag of season 63? Jeffrey Elliott and Jessica Shelton lead a packed full field through the tri-oval. And for the first time here this season, the flagman ready to wave the green flag. Waiting, waiting, waiting. Green flag in the air. The Talladega Challenge Series is back underway.
What makes the start of this season epic is hearing James Bond and a James Bond gun barrel sequence in the background as they take the green flag.
Orderly 2x2. Whoa, Denny Carroll with a moment there. But 2x2 all the way through the field down the back straightaway. Jeffrey Elliott on the bottom, Jessica Shelton on the top. We usually see that top line get the run down the backstretch. The inside line actually was able to stay even. Mentioned they did a little bit of I&I testing, messed with some grip lines here, so might see a lot more side-by-side racing. Might not see that middle line get the full-on advantage that we're used to seeing. Inside line might have a little bit more security now. We'll see. It's kind of a little bit of a new thing for us, too, in observing just exactly which lines are going to move, where the advantage is actually going to be. I mean, these two, Elliott and Shelton, they've been deadlocked this first full lap, and we got a wreck in the back. One up and over. That is Billy Elliser as well as Wiley Coate. Caution is going to fly. First caution of the season, a big one.
Is involved in it. I'll tell you, Seth, what a way to start the season.
Yeah, for sure. Starting it off with a flip. Our buddy Carson Gum would have a smile on his face right now. He wouldn't have had to wait very long to see a flip.
Carson, go.
Jessica Shelton.
You're going to make me start singing that.
Shelton, by about half a car length, had the advantage on Jeffrey Elliott there at the time the yellow flew at his frozen field. So Shelton will lead them back to the stripe and pick up the pace car. There is what remains of the Quaker State Buick of Billy Elliser. He was one of two cars that were up and over. There's the other one, Wiley Coate. Mike Mangialardi back here in the 029. Not sure if he was involved. Donnie Garrett in the 77. You mentioned Ulysses involved. There he is. Rodney Sullivan's also back here in the 38. We'll have to check and see if all these drivers towards the rear of the field were involved or may have just been able to slow down in time to avoid. May have gotten a harmless spin. But we know for certain the extensive damage went to the 5 and the 26. Let's drop back, take a look at what happened. Somebody got out of shape. Looked like off of turn 2. They might have been 3 wide. Got the 000 on the inside there of Chris Emery. Oh no, Wiley Coate just comes down into Billy Elliser's door. It sends them back up the track. Donnie Garrett was indeed collected. Ulysses gets clipped in the right rear quarter panel. And on the right side of your screen, you see those skid marks. That's where Rodney Sullen spun. Somebody actually got the inside wall there too. Not sure if that was Rodney or not. We'll take a look in a moment. But wild impact there for both Billy Elliser and Wiley Coate. Kind of, again, hard to tell exactly what happened to the 5. He was going straight, and all of a sudden, he just kind of, for a moment, turned left. He wasn't anywhere close to hitting the wall. But then when he and the 26 got redirected back up into the outside wall, up and over they went, along with Donnie Garrett. Now let's check and see who it was that got the inside wall there. Rodney Sullivan's was one of the drivers that was spinning down in that direction. I'm not certain who the other one was. Oh, John Godfrey. He got loose there, or might have gotten turned by somebody into Sullins, and both Godfrey and Sullins got the inside wall there. So we talked about this the last couple of seasons when they moved over to the Aero 88 mod. Unless the car is smoking or completely crunched up, it is difficult to tell just how badly an impact is going to affect a driver because the damage model is not all that telling. And we'll have to wait and see on Godfrey and Sullins just how bad off they are. Same for Donnie Garrett. Here's a look at how Ulysses Sandoval got clipped. almost gets through it, and then right there, the left rear quarter panel of Donnie Garrett gets his right rear. Ooh, and then he takes a shot, does Ulysses, from the 22 of Greg Palmer. So I add Greg into the list of drivers involved in this one that we didn't originally know. Well, I mentioned about the fact, Michael, that at the beginning of the season, everybody starts at 0 points, and so everybody's going to be aggressive to try and get that checkered flag and utilize the remainder of the regular season to then try and rely on points, or maybe if you're in a position, rely on a victory to get into the postseason. In this case, a lot of drivers going to have to rely on this regular season to gain points back from the damaged race cars they have. Nobody out of the race, but I think it's safe to say a few of these drivers are going to be off the pace.
Yep, and unfortunately, that's just what comes with the lap 1 crash at I almost said Daytona, at Talladega.
It's a super speedway.
It's a super
bigger,
speedway,
but
not
a super speedway.
speedway.
Bigger, wider, but still a super speedway. And of course, with early yellows comes a lot of split strategy in terms of pit road. Looks like we had a total of 16 drivers that elected to stay out here under this caution. Everybody else hit pit lane. And now as my scoring updates, actually 13 drivers elected to stay out. It's only going to be about, 1 or 2 laps difference in how far they can go on a green flag run as opposed to the drivers that just came to pit lane. But while it doesn't seem like much right now, later on in the race, it could end up meaning the difference between a can of fuel, half a can of fuel, which is time on pit road. But Jeffrey Elliott did not come to pit lane. Jessica Shelton did, so Jeffrey will be the one to lead us back to green. Chuck McClure will line up in second. Bernie Mobbs third, Chris Elliott fourth, and Brian Schilling in fifth, at least tentatively. You still see the lights are still on atop the Robbie Nice's tribute pace car. Haven't gotten the one to green yet, so somebody could still make a dive onto pit lane here, this time out of turn 4.
That's true.
Appreciate everybody tuning into our coverage here tonight. Great to be back with you. Had that 2-week hiatus, but RTG back in full swing once again. Not only doing NR 2003 stuff, but on Tuesday nights they're doing stuff on the iRacing side as well. So dipping their toe in the water there.
Dip your face in the water.
After a hot day like today, that might not be so bad. And that is why I didn't give us a full top 10 rundown, because Brian Schilling is heading for pit road when he would have started in the 5th position. So we'll wait till they cross the line here at the 1 to green before we give you the official top 10. All drivers involved, including Billy Elliser and Wiley Coate, they didn't shut those engines off. They are continuing on. I think it's safe to say neither driver is going to be fully up to speed. But at the same time, too, in talking about, every point matters, especially once we get towards the end of the regular season, this could continue to be a race of attrition. We could have drivers out of the race before the conclusion of this one, and if Wiley Coate and Billy Elliser are able to complete all 66 laps, maybe not necessarily on the lead lap, but they could pick up a spot or two, and that could be a difference maker further on down the road. So now our scoring is updated. Your top 10 for this restart will look like this. Jeffrey Elliott will be alongside Chuck McClure. Jeffrey has elected the outside line. Bernie Mobbs will be on the inside of row number 2 with Chris Elliott up top, so the brothers will be nose to tail on this restart. Bob Dixon will restart in 5th, Mark Pagli in 6th, Joe DeSpirito in 7th, Chris Emery 8th, Tim Nofsker in 9th, and Jeff Crivello is going to complete the top 10. 12 drivers stayed out under this caution period. Jessica Shelton was the first of the leaders to pit. She will restart back in the 13th position.
I'm not sure how smart it was to stay out this early. Because they're banking on another caution. You would think, right?
Yeah, either banking on another caution or feeling that 1 or 2 laps isn't, much in terms of a difference of, fuel. Because caution came out in the middle of lap 2. So these drivers would have run up to speed only about a lap and a half. I don't know, maybe they feel with it being this early on in the season, with the season opener, that we just saw right there with the early caution is a telltale sign that the aggressive level is going to be at a pretty high level tonight, and they feel track position is going to be more important. They don't want to put themselves back there in maybe the proverbial hornet's nest. We'll see. We'll see if the strategy works out. As Jeffrey Elliott, who was on the inside for the initial start, takes the outside this time. We'll see if he's going to be able to hold on to the lead. Going to get a nice push there from brother Chris Elliott going into turn one. And not as tightly formed on the bottom. Bernie Mobbs now getting up to the back bumper of Chuck McClure. It will be interesting to keep an eye on that 17 here tonight, because back in season 62, Jeremy Jeffries came in as the defending champion, and he won the season opener, ensuring that he would make it into the playoffs to defend his title. He didn't make it past the round of 8, but it will be interesting if Chuck McClure is able to win the season opener here tonight. That'd be back-to-back seasons where something like that has occurred.
Seth, I got a question for you.
I might have an answer for you.
All right. Where do you stand on the spectrum of when somebody runs a number that's like the 09, but the paint scheme has just a single-digit number on it? Where do you stand on that?
I don't have an issue with it. Honestly, don't have an issue with it. Now, I will say, I run, on their Monday nights in the Barebone Racing Series, I run the 07. There was a portion of time, I think it was a couple of seasons ago, where I ran with just the 7 on the car. I now have the 07 on the car because I like the way it looks, but there was a portion of time where I did run just the 7 car on it. I don't have an issue with that. I know that maybe like visibly for people, it is a little bit... Visibly, as I eloquently say that. I know it might be a little bit confusing for people visibly to see like 2 cars of the same number out there, but honestly, it's not something that really bothers me.
I was always curious about it.
Yeah. There are people, there are series out there, they say that you absolutely have to run the number that you are on there. You have to add on the 0 or the zeros or whatever the case may be, but I personally don't have a problem with it.
Well, I feel like a 09 in the font that it is there, the Everham font, wouldn't be that bad looking.
No.
As we have a third line forming up there, Seth, trying to get along the outside.
Yeah,
I believe that's the 88 of Grant Wesley.
Grant Wesley a little rejuvenated after his Hawaii trip. And, of course, he's got the car behind him that is similarly colored. Now, you talk about peeves of mine, the 55 and the 88. I know they're different sponsors with Gatorade on the 88 and Mountain Dew on the 55, but it is very difficult for these old eyes to distinguish who is who, because the hoods look the same and the color scheme is exactly the same.
Old eyes are watching you.
Are any of these cars doing a little side-to-side shimmy on your end, or is that just me?
A couple of them are.
Okay, because I was noticing Grant Wesley up in that third line with a little side-to-side, and I was kind of scared there.
000 just jumped outside, and now we have a 3-wide battle for the lead.
That's Chris Emery.
The middle lane is going to die off.
Remember, Chris Emery was a bit of a Cinderella story last season, going to victory lane, locking himself in the playoffs, and we got towards the playoffs, and he was a no-show. He ended up getting eliminated out of the very first round. Not certain what the circumstances was in that case, but it was unfortunate because I believe it was his second appearance, I want to say, in the Tally Challenge playoffs, and he was going into the playoffs with a lot of momentum as well. So trying to get back to victory lane here. Hopefully we'll see him run in a full-time capacity, as to your point, that 3-wide stalled out not only the middle line, but also the outside line. Look how the inside line gets the advantage. The top 4, maybe 5, clearing both the middle and the outside line. That had a lot of similarity look to what we're used to seeing at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway.
Look at the inside lane. Really get a run there. Jess really pushed the 22 up there as they have a car on pit road. Yeah, she really pushed the 22 up there, and that middle lane just isn't non-existent now. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, when these cars get side by side, just like with the old school time sets, like that single file line will kind of pull away a little bit.
And this goes back to my point of the deceptiveness of the damage model for the Aero 88 cars. That 22 you're talking about there of Greg Palmer, he was
Oh,
involved in the earlier caution, got into Ulysses Sandoval with the front end. With moderate damage, it's always hard to tell, and with this damage model, it's even harder to tell, but that car is obviously up to speed and now going to try and lead a line there, trying to get alongside of Joe DeSpirito for 4th.
hey, I've got some words of wisdom. Do you mind if I say them?
You have words of wisdom? That doesn't seem possible, but go ahead.
It's okay. Hanging out with my friends is like group therapy, but nobody gets any better.
Hence why I said you don't have wise words. Tim Nofsker in the 088. Gonna hang on to that 5th position, holding off that outside line run. Nofsker, last year's championship runner-up, finished 5 points out of the championship title hunt. Was a 2-time winner last season, though. By far a career year for Tim, and
You're a
looking to
two-time
build
winner
off
last
of
season as
that.
well.
I'm a
Two-time
what?
winner of the last place award.
I've only gotten that twice? Man, I'm slipping.
This is why you missed me in the booth, didn't you? Don't lie.
This is not how you speak to your Season 62 Barebones Racing Series Challenger champion, sir.
What is that? The consolation prize?
that is the you were fast, but
not fast
outside the top 10 all the time.
Yeah, that sounds about right for you.
So far, only 3 drivers have been out in front here tonight. Jessica Shelton led the first 2 laps. Jeffrey Elliott took over, led the next 7, and now Chuck McClure has led the last 4. Got a challenge coming up here on this outside line, though. Greg Palmer, Jessica Shelton, Jeffrey Elliott, and then Grant Wesley and Ken Roberts.
Hey, I want to put this out here for all the work people who are out there. Tell me to everybody in watching in our chat right now, if you have a job, tell me if you wouldn't do this, okay? It says, couldn't find a parking spot at my job, so I left. They got enough people.
And that is a surefire way of getting fired. Woo, the 31 of Bernie Mobbs, the 143 Bob Dixon getting a little tight there, drifting up the track off of 2.
I mean, I almost couldn't find a parking spot for here.
Well,
I almost left.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, as well, these drivers not only battling to try and win their way into the playoffs, but remember in a couple of weeks' time, the Talladega Challenge Bracket Series will be kicking off. Top 32 drivers in points will be put into the bracket system.
Okay, Mill, I'll be honest. There's never a parking spot when you work from home, is there?
No, absolutely not.
He says he works from home, so I'm like, well, I mean, technically you can't find a parking spot. It's your park if you're
either that or it's constant VIP parking.
That's true.
Greg Palmer, that outside line, they're trying to get up there. We're so used to seeing that middle line. If they can even get 4 or 5 cars lined up, and they've got about 10 or 11, 12 cars all the way back through there, usually be able to quickly work their way up to the front. That's not the case right now. It's been slow and methodical. At one point, Palmer was up alongside of the 24 of DeSpirito. Now he has fallen back to the right rear quarter panel of Nofsker. So, again, we're kind of going to school here in the changes that were made, the grip levels and the INI as to what to expect now in future races at Talladega Superspeedway. And I think we're seeing that middle line is not quite as OP as it used to be in seasons past.
Well, it was hanging up there pretty good if there's not a third line.
Yeah, true.
So I'm here to bring the comedy, okay? And by comedy, I mean actual comedy.
And by comedy, you mean probably dad jokes.
Hey Seth, I found out how you're going to date a woman in the future.
Okay, that's the joke in and of itself right there.
This one says, I'm no longer dating. If you're interested in me, I need a 500-word essay on how you will not waste my time.
So here's the problem with that. If I have to read a 500-word essay, I'm going to feel like I'm wasting my time just doing that. That's my problem.
A 500-word essay? Just write me a story and make it interesting.
I will get one sentence in and be bored.
You get one sentence in, and you turn into Wayne Brady. I can't read.
I can't read. You talked about that one car that came to pit road a while ago. That was Billy Elliser, involved in our first caution of the evening. He has taken his car back to the garage area. He'll finish out the season opener 40th. Wiley Coate, who was the other driver that flipped in that wreck, he is currently way off the pace, still on the tail in the lead lap, but he is probably 2 to 3 laps, I would say, away from being put a lap down. And I just saw somebody else make the dive onto pit road.
I'll look
Oh,
for
that
ya.
was the 5. That was
Yep,
the 5 of Wiley Coate.
So, Seth, question: do you still drink Capri Sun?
No, actually, I don't.
Wow, that's such a shame.
I didn't drink Capri Sun very much in my youth, to be honest with you.
Because there's one here that says, "I cannot believe we're the new adults. Like, for real, I still drink Capri Sun."
Yeah, I will be honest, like juice pouches, maybe Juicy Juice was like the closest thing that I used to have for like a juice pouch pretty often, but Capri Sun never was a thing. As Bob Dixon makes the dive onto pit lane here, we're getting into those green flag pit stops windows now. Lap 19 on the board. Little surprised we didn't see more drivers coming onto pit lane, because remember, we ended up having, I believe it was 12 drivers that stayed out under that yellow. They will have to be some of the first ones that make the dive onto pit road, and I believe our race leader, Chuck McClure, was one of those 12, so expect him to kind of be the Pied Piper for those other 11. They might be pitting this time by. You see Shelton jump up there to the top. We know she can go a couple laps further on fuel. She pitted under the yellow.
This one is straight up Seth right here, guys. For all you paying attention, it says, "My name alone will ruin someone's whole day." Someone's coming to pit road. What's your car's coming to pit road?
Oh, someone just blew up.
Robert Breedlove
Jim Gloud is blown up, Michael, over in 3 and 4.
Oh, I don't.
Throwing
I don't
in the
smoke.
clutch off the racing surface to not bring out the yellow.
I don't have smoke on, so I couldn't tell.
Now, one thing he's got to make sure that he does, if he does come to pit road and he does retire out of the race, he cannot retire in his pit stall. That is something we have established will bring out the yellow. And he's pulling into his pit stall.
Robert Breedlove,
like
Chris Elliott, and Jeffrey Elliott come down pit road this time.
So 3 drivers all together. I know for certain that Jeffrey and Chris stayed out under the initial caution. I don't know about Breedlove. And here comes the race leader in, Chuck McClure, along with a bunch of others.
Oh, my Lord, that's a lot of power coming out of the...
Nofsker!
I saw that happening.
Somehow they didn't spin. He made contact with McClure. Somehow they didn't spin. Nofsker living dangerously there to that inside wall. Apparently there was just enough room for a car not to fit through, because he did make contact with the left side of his machine. And that is about a 45-degree angle wall there, too. I don't know how badly that's going to damage him. We're going to have to wait and find out. Jim Gloud has retired out of the race. Engine clutch, the reason for the mechanical problem, but credit to him on, first off, getting that thing down off the racing surface, throwing in the clutch so that way it didn't bring out a yellow, and then, as stated as well, not retiring out of the race in his pit stall, because it has been established if you have a mechanical problem, if you come down pit road, sit in your pit stall, and then retire out of the race while your car is being serviced, it will bring out a type like a phantom caution. Drivers are encouraged, if they're going to retire out of the race, to come down pit road, just stop in a safe position, and then retire out of the race. It saves having to run pacing laps under caution.
Shelton leading. I have a bit of a dad joke for you, Seth.
But you're not a dad.
And you're not a joke.
Yes, I am. That is a lie, and I know it.
It says, "At least someone loves me and fights for me. I love you, my white blood cells."
That's a good one. Mark Paglia in the 28 coming down pit lane, and I believe he had already made a pit stop, so could be serving a pass-through penalty. Tough break there for the 28 car. Former winner from last season. Didn't make the playoffs last year, though. Wasn't high enough in the point standings at the end of the regular season to be eligible for a playoff spot. Or actually, no, correction. He ended up winning during the playoffs. That's right. He ended up winning, I think it was the first playoff race. It was a playoff spoiler, denying other playoff drivers an automatic ticket into the next round.
This is Seth in a car. I don't have time to Google lyrics. I sing what I hear.
Sometimes I just hum the tune too.
2-2.
Big group of cars coming in this time, and they're all going to make it. Grant Wesley, Ken Roberts, Bob Seminara, Jessica Shelton amongst those. Saw earlier, just before we ended up going to qualifying, Seminara had
I think I
connection
should stop.
problems and
I
dropped out of the team speak. Was hoping that those connection gremlins had gone away. We've seen him side to side a little bit here in the last couple of laps.
think I should stop with my comedy because we've lost 5 people since I started.
Have we really?
We were at 20, and then I looked at it. Now we're at 15.
Oh, on the stream. I was like, Michael, we started with a full field. How are we down to 15? Now I get it. We're focused on the 24 of Joe DeSpirito here because I believe he is the highest running driver that is up to speed. He just crossed the line in 18th. We'll wait and see where everybody cycles around to.
This is Picker lost her a couple spots on that exchange.
Saw Dante Ricky get bypassed. Dante was the fastest qualifier in knockout queue, clocking in at a 51.910. DeSpirito, Chris Emery, Chuck McClure, Donnie Garrett now going to make their way around Rodney Sellens and Josh Metallic. And it looks like up ahead, it's going to be maybe Bob Seminara that's going to cycle out to the race lead. Seminara and Wesley of their group were two of the most aggressive drivers on the entry of pit lane. It looked like it gained them some track position. There's some more drivers they're catching up to here. Greg Lovell, Terry Bombard, Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
There's the pause for you, my guy. Denny Carroll there as well. Brian Schilling, Jeremy Jeffries. Yeah, I think this is right here going to be your exchange for the race lead. Coming to 40 laps to go this next time by.
All right, I said I was going to stop with the comedy.
And
now
you
I
lied.
can't. I'm going to read this. It says, not much of a rise and shine person, more of a caffeinated and hope for the best.
You just wake up, you chug a Monster Energy, and hope that gets you through the day.
Oh, I don't do energy drinks.
Oh boy, Michael, you've started something. Now we got someone. Now we got Milt in the chat with a joke. He says, "Michael, if all your ducks are in a row, the last one has to walk through all the poop." All right, first round of green flag pit stops here in season 63 complete. Bob Seminara to the point. Grant Wesley in second. Jessica Shelton in third. Ken Roberts fourth. Keith Bynum in fifth. Your top 5.
Oh,
whoa!
Oh my gosh.
There's nobody down there on the apron to block, Bob.
Yeah, but he's blinking. He might get told to go to the back for that.
And we've seen this before. This happened quite a number of times last season where Bob would be running in the front, if not in the lead, and have these connection problems and have to give up all that track position.
He's going to have to. That's really bad.
Man.
I mean, look, the 88's backing off, and now a second lane is forming.
Not sure I'd be all that anxious to form in a second line either to get up alongside of that 712. But your top 5 right now currently were winless last season. The battle for 6th place, Brian Schilling and Jeremy Jeffries, they did win last year, as did Joe DeSpirito, Chris Emery, and Chuck McClure. So a number of drivers looking to snap a winless streak. I believe all 5, or 4 of the 5 rather, in your top 5 have formerly won in the Tally Challenge. Keith Bynum looking for his first career win. One driver's name we haven't talked about yet this afternoon. That's a driver that had a breakout year last year, Brian Rawson, going to victory lane multiple times, got his first career win, and made his way into the Final Four to compete for the championship. Normally starts out back, did so again this week. However, that round of green flag pit stops did not work out in his favor. He is currently mired back in the 20 ninth position. But with what Brian Rossum was able to do last season, I look at a number of these drivers that have not raced a number of seasons here in the Tally Challenge, still looking for their first career wins, like a Keith Bynum, Jeff Crivello, Randy Waugh. I wonder to myself, will we see any of those drivers have a breakout season here in season 63? Few of the series here in RTG going to be off next week, including the Monday Night Cup Series for the Labor Day weekend. However, we will be back here next Thursday night for race number 2 of Season 63 for the Talladega Challenge Series. I hope you guys will join us. We'll be under the lights at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, following up all the storylines from the conclusion of tonight's season opener. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Flatout Racing Network. As Grant Wesley, Jessica Shelton, they've gotten around Seminara, who again begins the what's it called? Is it the Cupid Shuffle? There's a dance that has shuffle in it. I can't remember what it's called.
It's the Cupid Shuffle.
The Cupid Shuffle. So we'll call that the Cupid Shuffle that Seminara is doing right there. And now you see him after he's lost the race lead. He's gonna
welcome Brian to the chat. He says I missed the race tonight.
Oh, Brian Lovell. Yep, we saw Brian in the team speak. I don't think he made it into the server to be able to attempt a qualifying run, but hopefully we'll see you make the field next week, Brian. Appreciate you tuning into our coverage here this evening. So, Michael, I'm going to say a sentence for you, and it's going to be kind of like a Ripley's Believe It or Not, okay?
Okay.
Grant Wesley is looking for his first win in over a season.
Wow.
Yeah, went winless last year, did the driver of the 88. A rarity here, it seems, in this series. And remember back to when he ended up winning 3 championships in the span of 4 seasons. Last year was a bit of an off year for Grant. He ended up making the playoffs. He pointed his way into the playoffs. Did not advance into the Final Four, but I think the biggest rarity was seeing a 0 in the win column for driver 88, and you know that he would love to remedy that here, fire the first shot in season 63.
Gosh, Steph, you were right. That 88 and the 55 space, man.
You see? It's not just me then, right?
No, it's not.
I don't think we've ever had a season where the driver with the car number that matches the season number has won the championship, but look at Keith Bynum there in car number 63. How cool would it be if we see him get a victory here in season 63? Having a great run right now in P3, just behind Shelton, just behind Wesley. We've had the one round of green flag pit stops, and surprisingly, we've only had 6 drivers out in front. Chuck McClure has led the most laps with 11. 7 laps led for Jeffrey Elliott. Jessica Shelton's led 5. Grant Wesley, I believe, just led his 5th. And then 3 laps led for Bob Seminara and 2 laps led for Brian Schilling. Not had a whole lot of lead changes so far in this one, and we are already halfway home. We worked 1 caution that was back on lap number 2. Since then, we have had green flag racing. And this is kind of looking similar to what we saw down the home stretch of the regular season last year and the playoffs, where more so it came down to positioning and execution on pit road rather than it was...
execution?
The what?
The excellence of execution?
I know that's a wrestler's nickname, and I don't remember who it is.
Bret Hart.
Oh, that was Bret. That's right. But This is kind of looking eerily similar to that, rather than what I was originally thinking here tonight, where we would end up seeing a lot more torn up race cars, drivers being a little bit more aggressive, going for moves that they probably wouldn't make later on in the regular season, with the fact that everybody's starting here at a clean slate. Jeffrey Elliott up there in that 3rd lane. I don't know if he's going to the back of his own accord or if he got shuffled out.
Shuffle you out.
But he's going to go all the way back to around the 21st, 22nd position. He crossed the line the last time by in 5th place. We gave you an update on the drivers out of the race. Another driver has since come to pit road and made the left-hand turn to the garage area, that being Ron Hagelin.
I made it a new goal for this season for me when I'm broadcasting races with you, to find the right song to put in the background of these races that fits just the right moment. Like right now, we're coming up to 30 laps to go as they cross the start-finish line.
What's a good 30 lap to go song?
About to find out.
We
could do Elton John's Rocket Man.
Now that'd be more for like
Or,
qualifying.
That's true. Or we could do you've never seen this movie as far as I know. Of course, it would surprise me more if you have seen it. It's called Hearts on Fire from the Rocky IV soundtrack.
Yeah, I've not seen any of the Rocky films.
Yeah, that honestly does not surprise me.
I mean, I know Sylvester Stallone's the main character and everything, but I've not seen them. I actually almost did once. My friend had the Rocky series, and we almost watched them, but we never did.
Should be up to watching a Rocky movie. Even the original one's pretty good. Anyways, so I'll listen to Hearts on Fire in the background. I'm getting a phone call. Hold on.
Okay. I thought that our broadcast booth had an unlisted number, but apparently I'm incorrect. You saw right there a couple of drivers get caught and put a lap down. Denny Carroll in the 41, Mike Mangialardi in the 029. So we now have only 31 drivers of our original 40 on the lead lap. Mark Paglia and Bobby Farrell right now, according to scoring, are the first two cars -1. If we were to get a caution, they would get the free pass. We mentioned Carroll, Mangialardi, as well as Bernie Mobbs, currently the drivers off the lead lap. Wiley Coate also off the lead lap, -2. Should be getting close to another round of green flag pit stops, I do believe. We saw a lot of drivers dive onto pit lane around lap 19. So let's see if anybody's diving onto pit road here this time around. Yep, here's a group towards the back. Chris Elliott, Jeffrey Elliott. Oh, Greg Palmer into the inside wall. Rear brakes locking up there on the 22. Robert Breedlove. Oh, Brian Rawson overshot his stall. Had to back up. That's going to cost him valuable time. Going to see some others diving onto pit lane here in a little bit. And according to my calculations, I don't think anybody's going to be able to make it on fuel regardless of when they pit here, just based on how far they can go. I think everybody's going to have to come to pit lane at least one more time. And that final pit stop, if we continue to trend green, is going to be in the final 10 laps of this race. You talk about a money stop. This is the precursor pit stop to that. Couple more laps and Grant Wesley will get the bonus point for most laps led. Chuck McClure currently has it with 11, but Grant just led his 11th lap, so one more lap and he will officially take that bonus point. Dante Ricky back there trying to head up an outside line with Josh Metallic and a few others. Let's check through, see if anybody's going to come to pit road from this lead pack. Yep, Joe DeSpirito's in, Chuck McClure. New look for Kelly Causey in the Prestone 00. Donnie Garrett, Tim Nofsker on pit lane. Group of 5 hitting pit road on the completion of lap 40. Don't want to get a speeding penalty at this point in time for sure. That could really hurt your race. We've already seen a couple of drivers have to come to pit road. Mark Paglia being one of them at the first round of pit stops. Right now he is fighting for a lucky dog position. He's in this lead pack. There he is behind the behind the blue and yellow 38 of Rodney Sellens, but off the lead lap. Ooh, Cy Jones very slow coming in, and they had to split him. That was Chris Emery, Paglia, Jeff Crivello, and Bernie Mobbs. That could have been bad. Fortunately, though, they were able to avoid the somewhat slower entry of Cy Jones. Dante Ricky in that Wawa number 84. This is about the best momentum we've seen out of that outside line pretty much all night long. And they are making a ton of headway down the back straightaway. Dante to the outside of Grant Wesley for the lead. Josh Metallic, Randy Waugh up there, as well as the lap machine of Denny Carroll, Brian Schilling, Jeremy Jeffries up there. Somebody towards the back of this group is coming to pit road. I think that might have been the 8 of Glenn Harris diving out of line. Mike Mangialardi there as well. Keep an eye on Glenn Harris this season. Last year, near the end of the season, he had some really good runs going on, and some late yellows took him out of contention. If he can kind of find that consistency again this season, I think we could end up seeing Glenn Harris up there battling to point his way into a playoff spot, maybe even get one of those Cinderella story wins. We seem to have one or two of them every single season. As look at this traffic now with drivers merging back onto the track, the leaders up at full song, and they've got to come to pit road at some point here. Like right now, Grant's in, Jess is in, 3 wide behind them. Ken Roberts, Dante Ricky, Metallic, Sullins, Randy Waugh, Seminara, Sandoval, and Farrell all on pit lane. I believe, no, correct. I was going to say, I thought Ulysses Sandoval was on the lead lap, but he's actually a lap down. I was going to say he'd be another driver like Greg Palmer that was involved in the initial lap 2 wreck that appears to still be up to speed. Like the last cycle, we're going to focus on the 24 of Joe DeSpirito to wait to see where everybody cycles around to. And I'm keeping a close eye on my scoring to see if anybody ends up getting hit with a black flag and have to come back down pit road, because as things are trending right now, it looks like this thing might end up going green to the end.
So we're out next to green flag pit stops. I am back, by the way.
Yep, green flag pit stops, I believe, just cycled around here. We're just waiting to see where everybody lines up position-wise. The one thing we do know, Michael, is everybody's going to have to make at least one more pit stop, and it's going to be in the final 10 laps, somewhere around, depending on circumstances, somewhere between 7 to 10 laps to go.
Man, Justice pit crew lost her yet more spots on pit road.
Well, let's remember, too, Jess, in the random qualifying draw, got the number 2 pit stall. Under caution, pit stalls up at the front of pit road are great. Under green, not so much, because it's so difficult to launch off of pit lane when other drivers that have a pit stall midway down pit road are already up to the 55 miles per hour. So that could be a reason, too, is the number 2 pit stall area, why Shelton ended up losing some spots. Is, woo, that was a little late move there on Terry Bompard by Grant Wesley, but he's going to go around the 10, the 1, and the 63, and he will cycle back out to the race lead, it does look like. Oh, we've got one driver that's been hit by the speeding police, and there he is coming to pit road, Dante Ricky.
Oh, no.
Man. Could not afford that. He would have cycled around to second place. He looked pretty aggressive coming on to pit road there. Apparently just a little too aggressive. And now Dante's going to be hoping for a caution to save his race.
But aggressive goes around.
It does go around. Hopefully not in this case, though. Would love to see this thing go green to the end and see how this pit strategy works out. Greg Lovell led a lap right there. And he and Brian Schilling and I believe it was the lap car of Denny Carroll all were just coming off of pit road. So Grant now officially takes the race lead back. And of course, wouldn't you know, the similarly colored cars are still nose to tail, but this time in first and second with Ken Roberts right behind Grant. Rodney Sullins, highest he's run tonight, in third. Kelly Causey there in fourth, and Joe DeSpirito currently holding down the 5th position. Chuck McClure, Keith Bynum, Jeremy Jeffries, Terry Bombard, and Josh Metallic last time by were scored the top 10, but I believe Metallic just lost that 10th spot to Donnie Garrett down the back straightaway. Saw the 022 Kodiak. I believe it's a Pontiac there. Kodiak Pontiac. That's interesting to say. Interesting combination of words. Jason Scheck. He just got put a lap down.
Somebody sideways and stopped on pit road.
Uh-oh. Oh, it's Wiley Coate. Looks like he might have spun coming onto the pit lane entry. It's been a tough night for Wiley right out of the gate. 2 laps in, was up and almost into the catch fence, flipping on the back straightaway. Currently 3 laps down. He'll probably lose a couple more laps here with the green flag pit stop. 37th position where he's currently running. As of right now, we've got 37 cars running, 27 of them on the lead lap. Only 3 drivers out of the race: Ron Hagelin, Jim Glaude, and Billy Elliser. Lucky dog positions right now belong to Mark Paglia and Cy Jones. Let's fall back and find the 7 car. There he is, and this is why I wanted to look and see, because right behind him is the 31 of Bernie Mobbs, so those 2 are fighting for the second Lucky Dog spot. And then a little further back there as well is the 096, the light blue and white 096 of Ulysses Sandoval, and then the red, white, and blue 41 of Denny Carroll. They are also a lap down, looking to get up here into the conversation for the free pass. Right now, though, in this lead group, looks like 20 cars on the lead lap, all still have a shot. The question is, though, that final green flag pit stop coming up, and the caution that came out on lap 2 really spread out all the strategies. We had about a dozen drivers who didn't come to pit road. Everybody else did pit. We've had drivers that have come down pit road in intermittent groups in a span of anywhere from 5 to 7 laps on our 2-cycle green flag pit stops. So kind of hard to keep track of all of that and figure out exactly who can go how far before they have to hit pit road. I would think that more than likely everybody's going to have to come to pit road before 5 to go. So my assumption is it doesn't matter when you pit with the window that we kind of have. I think everybody's going to have to take on a can of fuel regardless. So I'm not necessarily certain if there is going to be a split strategy advantage where one driver is going to be able to take on less fuel than another driver.
I'll wait and see if that's going to be the case. You're going to try to push it as far as you can go so you can spend less time on pit road, but I don't know. We'll see how aggressive these guys get, Seth.
And we've also seen, not huge packs of cars coming down pit road together. I think maybe the most cars we've seen in a group, maybe 8 or 9 cars. A little easier to be able to get organized as well than it is to try and have traffic control with 20 plus cars coming to pit lane. With that being said, I feel like we're going to see the same thing here again. Do you maybe consider coming to pit road right at 10 to go, just on the off chance that you get your service completed? You know everybody else is going to have to pit, and we've not seen it yet, but what if somebody makes a mistake in one of those groups, spins out a car, sends them up back on the racing surface, the caution comes out? Everybody's going to have to pit. If you're still on the tail end of the lead lap, you cycle back to the front.
Yes, but what are the chances of that not happening either?
Yeah, I know. It's a catch-22. I mean, one thing we also know is that these drivers are all going to have to pit before the proverbial point of no return. We've got lap cars, so that point of no return would be at the completion of lap 62. These drivers are going to absolutely have to pit before that. I think the furthest any of these drivers would probably be able to go before they absolutely have to hit pit road, probably lap 59, lap 60, I would say.
It's a catch-22 when it comes to trying to figure out when do you want to come on pit road, but there is one thing that we both 100% know for a fact.
What's that?
Never trust Matt Rod's fuel strategy in a race in iRacing.
That is true. That is true. Well, Grant Wesley has got the most laps led bonus point wrapped up, with the number of laps left on the board here. Only Chuck McClure would have a shot of challenging for that bonus point. Grant has led, coming on now, 22 laps. Chuck has led half of that at 11. And when they crossed the line that time, there were 13 laps to go. No way anybody would be able to lead the final 13 laps and eclipse the 21 laps or 22 laps led by Grant. Chuck could, but he would probably have to lead from now till the checkered flag to be able to get that bonus point back. So maybe a very valuable bonus point for driver 88, but he doesn't want to worry about bonus points. He'd love to cap this thing off with a victory. And of course, bonus points are given out at the end of the regular season too. You end up getting bonus points for however many wins you have during the regular season. You get bonus points for where you are positioned in the regular season standings at the conclusion. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the regular season champion ends up getting 15 bonus points. That equates to winning 3 races, so it's huge if you're able to have that consistency throughout the entirety of the regular season.
We really need to have a counter that just shows how many times you flirty and slipped during these broadcasts.
I don't necessarily think that we could make a counter wide enough to hold a triple-digit number, but graphics department might get on that. I don't know.
I could see it.
Rodney Sullins, Kelly Causey. Oh, look at this.
Here comes the 00. Is he by himself?
This is interesting. Yeah, all by himself.
Maybe he heard you.
Fuel window's open. They can make it the rest of the way here. He is going to have to take on, well, he might be able to take on a can. They're coming to 11 to go.
No, we have 11. We're at 11 to go right now.
Yeah. Usually it's 10 laps that you can go on 1 can of fuel, unless he feels he'd be right on the number. But the problem for Kelly Causey, though, is he came down all by his lonesome. He didn't have anybody else with him.
Think about it, Seth. How many laps to go did he have on gas already if he's adding 10 laps to it?
I think, I'm trying to remember what group he came down pit road with. I think he came down with the same group that Grant, Ken, Jess, I think he was with that group, so he should have been able to go quite a bit further than everybody else. Now let's see if the 00, okay, so the 00 is coming out here. He will have a group that's catching up to him here with Glenn Harris, Chris Elliott, Greg Palmer, Bobby Farrell, Dante Ricky, so he won't be out there all by his lonesome. He should stay on the tail end of the lead lap. Now, I understand the strategy. I absolutely get it. The thing that kind of confuses me with that, though, is he was running in 4th. I would have expected a driver that may be running outside of the top 10 to maybe go with that type of strategy. Kelly, with a solid pit stop, could have cycled around still inside of the top 5 after the pit stop cycle was complete and still had a shot at this win. So this is an interesting kind of long shot call for him, but we'll see if it works out. He's 100% banking on a caution. That's what he's thinking. Because if a yellow comes out, everybody else is going to have to hit pit road. If he stays on the tail end of the lead lap, he gets to stay out, and he'd be the race leader when we go back green, which would probably be, well, it's obviously now going to be with less than 10 to go, but I would think we'd probably be looking, depending on if the caution happened, we'd be looking at less than 5 to go, probably.
Who's going to win, Mountain Dew or Gatorade?
A Pepsi product.
I was waiting. Now watch like Bush Beer win this race.
We got some more drivers on pit lane, and these are some drivers that were from that group that Causey was trying to merge with: Glenn Harris, Bobby Farrell, and Chris Elliott, as well as Greg Palmer. So that is not good news if you are a driver 00. He's going to pick up Dante Ricky here.
This race needs to hurry up. I need to use a little commentator's room, but I don't want to miss this finish.
Well, joke's on you. We're going into 6 overtimes.
Ha! Ha! This job isn't that important.
Let's see if anybody here from this lead group comes to pit road, where we should be having some pit stops here. Like I said, lap 59, lap 60, I thought was about the furthest most of these drivers would be able to go. Here comes Chuck McClure to pit lane.
Oh, that was fast, too.
Tim Knopfsker in as well. Only 2 drivers here from this pack.
We'll wait and see next time around.
So those two drivers in particular, they're now looking to see where they're going to position themselves as opposed to Kelly Causey. It's like more radios lighting up, more hands out the window. This is the money stop. This is the pit stop. That's more than likely.
24, 31, 9, all coming down pit road this time.
This is going to decide your race right here. They've already made 2 cycles of green flag pit stops, but this one's going to have the most importance on it. Looks like Grant is staying out.
They're staying out.
Here comes Donnie Garrett as well, and Jeff Crivello, aside from those 3 that you mentioned.
Oh,
Ooh,
the 24 hit the inside wall.
he did, and so did the 36. On this pit stop, you're going to only want to take fuel only. You don't want to lock up those tires. Looks like McClure and Nofsker got out ahead of Causey. And I think this is about the furthest these drivers are going to be able to go. Everybody's going to have to pit this time by, I think.
It's going to be a half can, isn't it?
Yes, actually. I think you're right. Yeah. They could be able to do half can here.
This could be the one time that make or break Jess and their team. But here comes Elliott and Palmer.
Grant stays out again. Okay, so I had the numbers incorrect. I thought that they couldn't make it any further past lap 60. And Grant has led almost the entirety of this run. So you would have thought that he would have been one of the earlier ones onto pit lane, but not the case. So just how far can he go here? So now these drivers, I think they would love to see a caution, because if the caution comes out, we're at the point of no return, race would end under yellow. Would they have enough in the tank to clutch around for 3 or 4 laps? We've seen Grant do it before. I remember that race very well, where we didn't give him a ghost of a shot of having enough fuel to get to the checkers under the pace laps, and he was able to do so. But I think at this point, I think right here now, he's going to have to come to pit lane. Yep, I think he's coming in. Roberts is coming in. Rodney Sullins, Sandoval, Seminaire, Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
Ooh, Rodney almost lost it.
But it's Keith Bynum that stays out.
Cannot afford. You want to be aggressive on pit road. You don't want to give up your track position when it all cycles around, but you don't want to be too aggressive and throw it away. To your point, though, Keith Bynum now out in the lead. Jeremy Jeffries in second. Terry Bombard in third. Brian Schilling fourth. And I believe Greg Lovell is right now in the 5th position. Greg and Brian have gone the longest of anybody on these green flag pit stop cycles. Can they make it the rest of the way?
He's going to try it, not coming down pit road.
Dante, Ricky, and John Godfrey both on pit road this time by. Godfrey a lap down. Dante was on the tail end of the lead lap. I mean, why not, right? It's the season opener. If you're close on fuel, go for it. Why not? The worst that happens is you run out of fuel trying. You've got the rest of the regular season to be able to try again or get the points back that you lost. Go for broke here. Treat this as a must-win situation race.
If he gets the one to push him, all he's got to do is kind of three-quarter throttle it, Seth, and that might save a little bit. He's the leader. He can control the pace.
I think it was 2 seasons ago. Terry Bombard, JT Mayhew tried to make it on fuel. One ran out of... Oh, they're coming into pit lane here. Brian stayed out. Greg stayed out.
Well, Brian's behind Denny Carroll.
But one run out of fuel out of turn 2. The other one ran out of fuel, I think it was off of turn 4.
2 laps to go.
Can Brian Schilling or Greg Lovell make it? It's a 2-car dance here. It's a game of who's got the most in the tank. Brian's out of fuel, I think. Oh no, he just threw in the clutch and jumped to the top.
He's still about to run out of fuel.
He's still under power, but he just threw the clutch in there trying to save. Greg Lovell still up to full speed.
Oh, he's out now.
Is Brian out?
He's got to be. Either that or he's just really slow.
He's clutching. He clutched again. And now he's out. Unless he's still clutching. No, I guess he's still clutching. And Greg's on pit road. Greg's on pit road. Brian's going to try and make it. He didn't come to pit lane. Has he got enough fuel to make it? Who's the driver trying to chase him down? Way back here, it would be Jeremy Jeffries and Keith Bynum. And
Oh,
they
he's
are
going
about half a
slower.
track behind.
He's going. He's at one. He's got to be out.
Oh my
He's got to be out.
gosh.
Nope, nope. There he goes.
Oh my
There you
gosh.
go.
Is he gonna... I'm waiting
This
to
is
see
gonna
the
be
interval. I'm
insane.
waiting for them to cross the line, see what the interval is between Schilling back to Bynum.
This is gonna be insane.
There's
I
no
cannot
way.
wait.
There's
I
no
hope
way.
I hope he makes it. I want to hear this. I want to hear this in the interview.
What a way to open up season 63. It's coming down to fuel mileage here. Denny Carroll's out of fuel there on the back straightaway. I'm still waiting for scoring to tell me how far back second place is.
The 880 was still in second place.
Looks like about 26 seconds was the gap. There's the 880. There's the group. They're just coming out of turn 2 down the back straightaway. Brian is through 3 and 4. I think he's going to make it.
He can coast from
I think he's going to make it.
He's got it. No way. There's
what?
Absolutely
hey,
no
pun
way.
intended. What a Kodak moment here at Talladega. Brian Schilling on fumes is going to win the season 63 opener at Talladega.
Oh, I think he's out now.
I think he just had enough to make it.
That is impossible.
And look at this. Now second place crosses the line. Oh, and we're flipping. Chris Emery and Chris Elliott.
Chris Emery he did a suplex.
Wow.
And look at this. For the 88 and a 55. I'm so glad we interviewed him last so I can go to the commentator's room while you handle the rest of them. My God.
Trying to find the 4 car. Where is he at? There he is. He might need a push to victory lane. There ain't no way he's doing burnouts.
Hey, look, Mom, I did a burnout.
Gotta get a little help there from his teammate Tim Nofsker. And now Chuck McClure will take over the pushing duties. Scoring is showing the 10 of Terry Bombard might have gotten a black flag on his final pit stop and ran it out.
Well, he's did show him. Nope. Now there it goes. It kicked him out. Now Jess has moved into the 10th.
Yep, it just dropped Terry with the 1 lap penalty from 9th to 18th.
They've got a double car pushing. Well,
how about that, though? The interval, for those wondering, second place crossed the line 7.5 seconds behind Brian.
That is absolutely insane.
Man.
I'm going to let you handle question set so I can go to the little commentator's room.
Okay. Now we will be showing you your finishing results a little bit sooner than normal here because I don't think we're going to be sticking with the 4 for any burnouts. He is completely out of fuel. But how about that? Brian Schilling had a great season last year. Trip to victory lane. Consistent in the point standings. Was in the conversation for the regular season championship, it seemed, all regular season long. Advanced into the final 4. Finished 3rd in the final championship standings. 10 points out of the championship. But kicks off season 63 with a victory. And there you go. Right on the RTG logo, right underneath it. Brian Schilling comes to a halt, and he will celebrate there on the front straightaway in the tri-oval grass. His first win of the season. What an incredible finish there. And this is why I should not predict races, because I said with this being the first race of the season, we were probably going to see drivers treat this as a must-win situation and maybe see a race of attrition. Nope, anything but. We had a caution back on lap 2. That was the only time the flagman had anything to do outside of waving the white flag and the checkered flag. 3 cycles of green flag pit stops, and Brian Schilling going with the ultimate fuel strategy to be able to make it to the end, literally on fumes, and capture the checkered flag. Here's a look at your finishing results from tonight's season opener. Grant Wesley going to finish in 2nd after leading the most laps here tonight. Ken Roberts in 3rd. We'll be talking to those 3 drivers during our FRM post-race wind down in just a moment. Rodney Sullins will kick off the season with a 4th place finish. Greg Lovell will get 5th. Keith Bynum in 6th. Chris Emery was 7th. Jeremy Jeffries in 8th, Bob Seminara in 9th, and Jessica Schulten in 10th. Joe DeSpirito was 11th, Randy Waugh 12th. The defending champion, Chuck McClure, 13th place. Tim Nofsker was 14th, Josh Metallic in 15th. Bob Dixon was 16th, and Donnie Garrett was the last driver on the lead lap in 17th. The post-race penalty for the black flag on that final cycle pit stops puts Terry Bombard one lap down in 18th. Jeff Crivello and Kelly Causey complete the top 20. Jeffrey Elliott, after starting on the pole position, 21st, 22nd for Robert Breedlove. Brian Ross in 23rd, 24th, Greg Palmer. Chris Elliott in 25th. Dante Ricky was 26th, Ulysses Sandoval 27th. Jason Scheck in 28th, Mark Paglia in 29th, and Bernie Mobbs completed the top 30. 31st was Cy Jones. First car 2 laps down was Denny Carroll in 32nd, Glenn Harris in 33rd. Bobby Farrell 34th, 35th for Mike Mangialardi, John Godfrey 36th. Wiley Coates soldiered on after a wounded race car in the early going. 5 laps down, he will finish the last car running in 37th. And then 3 drivers out of the race, Ron Hagelin, Jim Glaude, and Billy Elliser. The low number of drivers finishing on the lead lap due in part to the green flag pit stop cycles we saw for the majority of tonight's race. It came down all about execution, whether it was on pit road entry, pit road exit, but one driver executed strategy to perfection as well, and that was in regards to fuel saving, as Brian Schilling will be celebrating in Victory Lane. That takes us into our FRN post-race wind down, and it's time to dial up our top 3 finishers. Let's kick things off with the driver that brings it home in the 3rd position here tonight. Let's see if we can dial up Ken Roberts.
User was moved
Hey
to
Ken,
your
it's Michael
channel.
and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Gotcha, guys.
Man, I'll tell you what, came down to a race of strategy here tonight, especially in the closing stages. The field was really spread out in terms of the fuel strategy. Really, in part, it seemed like at the beginning of the race, the drivers that came to pit road, the drivers that didn't come to pit road under the caution, we were trying to figure out, who was able to take on just a half can of fuel, who was going to have to take on a can of fuel, who could possibly make it to the end. Looked like you were in the camp of the half can of fuel. Obviously, battling there with Grant Wesley for what was looking like was going to shape up to be the race lead. But then when you saw the 4 Brian Schilling was staying out and trying to make it, did the strategy change where you were trying to push the 88 to get up there? Or did you think second place is probably where we're going to end up being? We're not going to catch the 4 in time, and could you have gotten around him?
Yeah, the strategy after we had that last pit stop, and yeah, it was a half canner. Was just basically stick with Grant. I had Rodney. Rodney was behind us. We was just going to see how far we could get up. But yeah, Schilling was out there too far for us to reel him in.
Yeah, we were surprised that you and that group you were with actually went as far as you did. I had calculated more than likely everybody was going to have to come to pit road somewhere before the completion of lap 60. You guys went a little bit further than that. Was there ever a point in time where you considered maybe being able to save enough fuel to get to the end, or was it fully the strategy of coming down and taking that half can in the closing stages?
Yeah, I was teetering between 3 and 4 laps, so there was no way to push it. So yeah, Grant was in the same boat, and I think Rodney was in the same boat. So I think we just all pitted together and was just going to get the best we could get.
Yeah, we didn't see you run full time last season. Missed a couple of races. A great way to start out the season here, though, with a podium finish. Obviously, in the conversation here right now for a playoff position via points. But how important was it for you here? How important is it in any season to get it started off right with a top finish, even if it isn't a win, a top 5 finish, a top 10 finish, to kind of set the tone for that consistency the rest of the regular season?
Yeah, I only made 2 races last season. Work kind of got in the way, but yeah, it was a good start to the season. I started right behind Grant, and I pretty much stayed with him all night. But yeah, it's that's what I really try to do is just be consistent and finish. Try to get top tens, many top tens as you can. Get yourself in position for maybe a spot in the playoffs later on.
Well, a great way to kick off your season. 3rd place here tonight at the Talladega Super Speedway. Congratulations on the great run there, Ken. Stayed up inside the top 10, I believe, pretty much the entirety of the night after getting the random qualifying draw just outside the top 10 in 11th place. Great execution on pit road as well, and reaping the benefits with a podium finish here tonight. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
I'd like to congratulate Brian Schilling on his win. That's awesome. it's always nice to get those out of the way. Like to thank you guys for doing the broadcast. I can't wait to watch it, and RTG for putting on, these are some of the best racers out here. They had to do the knockout qualifying, so we got through all that. But those guys do an awesome job. Josh and Tim and Wiley and all those guys. So it's good to be back. So thanks, guys.
Ken Roberts, your third place finisher here tonight in the season opener at Talladega Super Speedway. Congratulations on the great run. Best of luck next week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway.
All right, thanks, guys.
User
And
was
let's see if
moved
we can
out of
dial
your
up the
channel.
driver of the similarly colored car that gives us a little bit of a seeing double moment up here in the broadcast booth. Let's see if we can get a hold of second place finisher Grant Wesley.
User was moved
Hey,
to
Grant,
your
Michael, and Seth
channel.
up here in the FRM booth. You got me?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. We were talking about the fact it's been a while since we've seen you in victory lane. Dominant car here tonight. Led 30 laps this evening. Looked like you were going to cycle around back to the top position there once everything was said and done, but then Brian had the fuel to make it to the end. I know it's a great start to the year for you, obviously, but how tough is it to not close this one out with a checkered flag?
Oh yeah, anytime I'm up here talking to you guys after the race, it was a good night. Yeah, congratulations to Brian Schilling on saving that fuel. To be truthful, I didn't realize anybody was going to be able to make it all the way. I wasn't even thinking like that until we got down towards the end, and I heard somebody hollering to give Schilling room to pit, and Schilling's like, "I'm not going to pit," and then he's like, "Okay, I got you." And I was like, well, all right, we'll just see what happens. And really, my thought was to kind of stretch that field just as thin as I could, just in case there was a late race caution, at pit road entry or something. If it was within that 4 lap window, a few guys here have been known to save some fuel under caution to win a race. So
I wonder who that could have been.
that was
We
kind
might
of
have
my
referenced that tonight.
yeah, that was kind of that was in the back of my mind. It didn't work out that way. And I guess it turned out that Brian ran out of fuel before the start finish line. I didn't realize how close it was going to be there, but yeah, it kind of stings. Man, we were so close, but at the same time, I'm not going to hang my head too much because it was a good finish.
So I want to touch on something that you mentioned though about trying to spread the fuel as thin as you possibly could just in case a yellow flag did come out because as mentioned, you led 30 laps here tonight. You were out in clean air, obviously providing the draft, not getting the benefit of the draft. We know that consumes more fuel. And with the caution that was early on, the pit strategy that took place there, it was a little bit difficult to be able to keep track of who was on what type of strategy, how far they could go. I thought, at least for the entire field, nobody was going to be able to make it past lap 60 before having to hit pit lane. You were able to go, I think it was to lap 62's completion. How, from the lead, were you able to save enough fuel to go that far? Because it kind of seemed like, with you being out in front for a good portion of both the second run and the final run, that more than likely you would have had to been one of the first ones onto pit road.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I didn't actually keep track of exactly how many laps I was getting there. I was just watching the F3, and whenever the fuel was, I was just calculating the laps towards the end of the run. I know they made some tweaks to the track. It seemed like the bottom was a little bit quicker. We were turning more RPM overall. It was a little bit harder to pass. So I think everybody was just sort of wide open. I think that kind of brought the fuel strategies a little bit closer together. So I'm not sure how all that played into it, but I'd say it probably weighed in a little bit.
So coming into tonight, when we went live with the broadcast, I made the prediction that I thought we were going to see a lot more aggressive racing here tonight, maybe some more caution flags fly, because I felt like everybody was going to kind of treat this as a win or bust type race. Everybody obviously starts with a clean slate at 0 points. So, if you end up winning, you get that automatic ticket into the playoffs. If you don't end up winning, you end up on the end of the tow hook. Well, you've got some other regular season races to be able to gain those points back. Here tonight, though, outside of the early caution, it came down to execution on pit road. But was there still a feeling there in the field of drivers treating this as kind of a win or bust type race?
You know, when we had that caution on lap 2, I thought for sure, I was like, oh man, is this the way this race is going to go? And that's the thing about super speedway racing, is that you never know how the race is going to go. I mean, we got a caution on lap 2, and I think that was our last caution, and it went green from there. So, no, even with some of the newer faces, not that they're new to this game, but we had some guys that don't generally run together. Um, Jeffrey Elliott and some of those guys that came over. I'm happy they joined us, and everybody just meshed really well together. And yeah, I guess I think the tension was definitely high. Everybody wanted that win, but everybody just, they're experts.
Well, it will be interesting to see if, after the conclusion of tonight's race, if that tension kind of ramps up a little bit more next week, or if now everybody starts to settle in preparation for the continuation of the regular season. But a great way to start your regular season, Grant. Podium finish here tonight. Some good points, led the most laps as well, so you're gonna get some bonus points once the everything is tallied here for the race points conclusion, and obviously a great start here as well in terms of momentum heading down the rest of this regular season in preparation for the playoffs. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, once again, congratulations to Brian Schilling on the win. Man, that's huge to knock out get that lock in spot this early in the season. So, congrats to him. Also, forgive me, I don't know all the names of the drivers who's donated for the broadcast this season, but man, huge thanks to those guys because it really is something special that we've had this broadcast going for so long with this series. It really is a lot of fun to be able to watch it afterwards and share it with our friends and family. So, just thanks to all those guys. I'd like to thank the owners here, David Cannon and Sean Prime, keeping the world going around for us. The admins here on Thursday, Josh Wiley and Tim. Just everybody that helps behind the scenes. FRN, hey, thanks for taking time out for us again. Once again, another season. Good to see you guys. Thanks to my teammates with XFM, my friends and family for watching, and my girlfriend Brittany.
Grant Wesley, second place here tonight in the season opener. He'll look to get that one position better when we're under the lights next Thursday night at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Congratulations on the great run there, Grant.
Hey, thanks.
And let's see if we can go
User
down
was
to
moved
victory
out of your
lane and
channel.
dial up the driver that had the biggest fuel tank in Talladega, Alabama. Let's get a hold of Brian Schilling.
User was moved
Hey,
to
Brian,
your
Michael, and Seth
channel.
up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yep.
Well, evidently they've pushed your car back to victory lane there, but question is twofold. Number one, first off, how in the world did you have the fuel to be able to make it around? Because that might have been the slowest lap I've ever seen turned at Talladega in quite a while outside of under caution. And number two, you were one of the last drivers. I think it was on the second round of green flag pit stops and the third round of green flag pit stops. Even back at that point, were you thinking, I'm going to try and make it the rest of the way? I'm not coming in for that final pit stop at 5 to go.
Yeah. When we had the first yellow, I'm looking at, I knew I was going to be within a lap of the magic number. And it got a little further in, and it's like, I'm like 2 laps short. I was able to stretch one to get it to 1 lap short, and then it was just a battle on that last run to, save as much as I could.
So you had in your mind that you were going to try that strategy to make it on fuel. Now, a lot of times we don't use the word delta in super speedway racing, but obviously there would have to be a magic number of your gap to the cars behind you that are barreling down on you at full speed. Were you paying attention to that at all? Did you have like a number in your head of I need to be this far ahead of these guys to be able to run this pace to get to the end? Or on that final lap, were you not even worrying about that and just keeping an eye on your gauge, making sure you were going to have enough to be under power crossing the line?
Oh, I was looking at everything. I was looking at my fuel pressure. I had the F2 up. I knew I was checking it. At one point there were 30 some seconds behind. So I'm like, okay, I just held the clutch down on the backstretch, just saved as much as I could, knowing when they got to around 20 seconds behind me, I'm like, I'm going to have to just hold it down and let it run out and see where the momentum takes me. And thankfully, I had about a 7-second buffer, it looks like.
You're a multi-time former champion in the series. You were in the championship hunt last year in the Final Four. I ask this all the time, it seems, to whoever ends up winning the season opener, but just how much pressure does this take off of you now, knowing that you've got this win, you're going to be locked into the playoffs, staying inside the top 20 in the point standings? I mean, just how much freedom does that give you here for the rest of the regular season?
Oh, it's awesome. It's a weight off my shoulders. I won pretty early last season too, so it kind of gave me, the freedom to, help other guys, that help me, guys like Chuck, Tim, Rodney. The list goes on. There's so many good caliber drivers here that have helped me in the past, and if I can help them, it's great. If I can chalk up another win, that's even better. But I'm just so thankful to be able to even win. We had to send 6 or 7 drivers home tonight because we had so many people show up. So, I mean, to come away with a win like that, it's amazing on so many levels.
Well, we never know when the unpredictable, nail-biting finishes are going to end up taking place. We didn't have to wait long here in Season 63. You ended up giving us one right here in the season opener. Congratulations on the job. Well done. Before let's get back to celebrating your victory, though, Brian, the floor is yours for Victory Lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
All right. Thank you to. I'm sorry if I missed some people. The guys have donated for the broadcast. I know Donnie Garrett, Ultimate Garage Floors, for sure the Dixon brothers. So thank you there, Tom. I hope you're feeling better. Miss not having you here. Also, welcome back to a few drivers: Wiley Cody, Rodney Sullins. Ken Roberts, great to see those guys back. They're just really good guys. Missed, during their time not here. Also, that one's for Robbie. I've known Robbie I knew Robbie for years and years. I raced with him at ECT, and here, just still sucks. I still, sit here, wait for him to come on and just start telling us stories. So like I said, he's definitely missed here. So, but either way, and thank you for the broadcast, everybody that shows up, and the owners here and admins. None of this is possible without everybody, doing their thing.
Well, what a way to start off the season. Brian Schilling on fumes takes the checkered flag here tonight in the Season 63 opener of the Talladega Challenge Series. Will be interesting to see what he's able to do here for the continuation of the regular season, as he has now locked himself into the playoffs with tonight's checkered flag. Congratulations on the job well done, Brian. Go and enjoy this victory, and best of luck next week as we continue on the regular season at BSR.
Thank you.
User was moved out
Brian
of your
Schilling
channel.
with the win here tonight. A thriller to open up this brand new season of super speedway racing. And if this is setting the tempo of what we're going to see here for the continuation of this season, you are not going to want to miss it. Michael, I mean, who had this on the bingo card here tonight? Fuel Strategy Race to open this season up.
Yeah, absolutely. That was freaking crazy. Managed to make it all the way to the end somehow, run out, coming across the line. I mean, that's absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. Cannot wait to see what is going to be around the turn next Thursday night. These drivers will head under the lights to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway to continue on the season. Schilling's already gone to victory lane. Will another driver join him and thus lock up a playoff position as well? You'll have to find out, as we'll be coming to you live at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on FRN. Congratulations once again to Brian Schilling on his win. Michael, appreciate you joining me up here in the booth this evening.
Absolutely. It was fun.
And thanks to everybody that tuned into our coverage here tonight. Hope that you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys next Thursday night for the continuation of the 63rd season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. For Michael Norman, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.